Hey there. In this screencast, I'm going to switch my code editor from my plain text editor Notepad to brackets. So I'll open up that document that we were editing in a new application. And then I will add an HTML form. We'll get the information that's added to the form by the user with JavaScript, and then we'll display that information back to the user. So it's going to be a very simple application, but in that you'll see how we can use a variable. Basically, the variable will hold something like a first name or a last name, and then we'll create a function. A function is something that can be called with an event, such as the click of the button, which is what we'll be creating. We'll create a button that you click that'll grab all of that information and then use code to display it back with maybe some other information about the environment, for example, the user's time. So we can see how we can use an object like time as well. So there'll be a bunch of things that we look at. So this is my form so far, my document or application if you prefer so far. I'm presently editing it in Notepad, but I'm just going to close this so I don't have the same document open in multiple applications. You can have that if you like, but there may be some weird conflicts. And then I'm going to open up brackets. Now, brackets is an application that's used to edit a variety of code. JavaScript is one thing that it handles well as HTML and CSS. So I'm going to open up that document. I have it in my file browser still here. So I put it into this folder called How Programming Works. I'm just going to drag that onto brackets. Or another way to do this is to right click and open with brackets. Once it's installed, you'll see that as a choice. Or you can choose File and then browse to it. If you double click on the file, it'll always open in the browser, which we already have it open in the browser. We need to see the actual code, so you open it in brackets. So here's what I have so far. I'm just going to quickly add my form. So I don't want to get too much into HTML, but to create a form, you use form, and then I'm going to add a label. Now, this is something called an attribute. And I'm going to say this is the name of my variable eventually. So that lets me know that this is matched with some input. So here's my input for this label. So these are known as attributes again. Basically in HTML they're expressed in name value pairs. So that's the name of the attribute and that's the value of the attribute. And you'll see that some attributes can be used with multiple tags. Now, ID is a very important attribute when you're programming, because basically you want to give everything a name so that you can grab a hold of it with code. You can grab the element by name or by ID, depending on what programming language you're using. So I'm going to add both. And then I'm going to add default value here, just so that I don't need to fill this thing out every time I test it. So I'm going to say enter first name here. Then I'll be able to see if it works without putting an actual first name in. Now I'm just going to put a line break in here. This is one of those standalone codes that I was talking about earlier. Again, this isn't an HTML course, but we will learn a little bit. Now I'm done with my input. This is also a standalone field, but I've had problems when I've closed them within that tag before, so I'm not going to close that one in the same manner as the break, so I avoid that problem. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but with last name. So what I'm going to do is just quickly copy and paste all of this. And then just change F name to L name everywhere. Now you notice that the name is the same everywhere. So one trick I use is I always call something exactly the same thing every single time. Otherwise I won't know what I called it if I change its name in all of these fields. This is human readable, so we need to change that so the user knows what to do, not the programming language. Alright, so that's my form, and that's all I need so far. I'm just going to quickly add a button, and then we can add the actual code. So outside of my form here, I'm going to add another HTML element called button. And I'll say submit info or something like that. Notice that this text editor automatically closed my tags for me, so that's the benefit of using brackets. Another benefit of using brackets is we get code hints, which we'll see, as well as sometimes you can look up the syntax of the items that you're looking at. So if you're not sure about what a keyword or a command means, there'll be a little article you can navigate to right in the programming, right within the application. So this button, I'm going to add an event on click. Now this is a HTML attribute which allows us to add JavaScript or call some existing JavaScript, which is what a function is. So I'm going to add the name of my function that I haven't created yet, but this will be the name. I'm going to call this submit display form data. So this is called camel case, Hungarian notation. There's another word as well, I can't remember. But basically, you'll see this arrangement of text very frequently in a lot of different programming languages. The way you enter it is lowercase, first letter of the first word. Every other word is separated from the previous, not with a space or a dash or an underscore, but with a capital letter of the first word. So that's known as camel case or Hungarian notation. So now basically the layout for our application has been created. Now we just actually have to add the functionality. So I'm going to stop here and then I'll add the third video, which will take care of the rest of the entire application, including a little bit of CSS to make this thing pretty. Thanks so much for watching.